Good evening, everybody. This is the Hot Lap with Tyler and Brady. Unfortunately, our buddy Tyler is in between housings with the military, active military, so he won't be on camera tonight. Only me, but we do have him on the audio scene. So, Tyler, you got a copy, buddy?
Oh yeah, I got you, Brady. And man, we have a lot to talk about tonight. We're gonna try to do it pretty effectively, but for anyone who has any live questions, we'll try to answer maybe one or two. If you put it in the Discord chat, I might miss whatever's on the YouTube comments section, but it's great to be back doing the show, Brady. It's been a while. And man, we have 7 races to cover, 4 in the Concerns of Police Survivors Truck Series, 3 in the DSR Electric Truck Series, and a couple other news events that happened in the world of NASCAR and NASRA to get everyone caught up on. So I think we need to just start it off with the Concerns of Police Survivors Truck Series on Friday night, starting with the furthest race that we haven't covered, and that would be Homestead Miami Speedway, dominated by Keith Bradley, led 90 of 140 laps. I mean, Brady put on a clinic for the fans.
Absolutely. And I mean, it was a fantastic race. There was a lot of, two, three wide sometimes, a lot of slipping and sliding throughout of it. But at the end of the day, Keith deserved to win that race. We saw a lot of guys, come to the front, go to the back, a lot of strategy that came into play. So overall, it was a good watch. But yeah, Keith, locks himself into the next round. We'll get into it later on. Some misfortune by him, but just some great racing at Miami, which always puts on a great show.
Oh, absolutely. It was the last, I mean, for everyone at home, it was the last race, I believe, of the round of 20 was Homestead Miami Speedway. So Keith Bradley winning, putting himself in. I think he was already pretty much in on points. And then we go to the round of 14, 2 races, Michigan, Dover. And really a tale of 2 races. Michigan, late, got a little caution crazy, but still a very good race, very entertaining race by everyone involved. And Chris Blanchard steals the win, led only 1 lap, and that was the last one. And sometimes, Brady, that's all you can do.
Absolutely, congratulations to Chris. I want to say it was his first win at a non-super speedway. So even though I believe, gave a shout out to Tyler to not take that away from him. So, no, congratulations to Chris winning that race. A non-playoff driver. He's battling for the consolation playoff, so he gets locked into the final 6. I believe there was only 7 of them left, but only 6 have been running anyway. So Chris gets locked in, but I mean, great move by him. If anybody watched, whenever he, had the momentum on the back straightaway to come up on Jeff Merck and just dives into his inside, does what he has to do, gets the job done. A key note in that race, if we remember, Ashley Dotson. This is where everything went downhill for our third
Yeah,
seed, Ashley Dotson. He intentionally
25-point
wrecked.
penalty.
Yes, he intentionally wrecks Raul Meza. They kind of get into it. Ashley had somewhat of a difficult night. Nothing went right for him. Uh,
Yep.
and the penalty, Tyler, on top of it, did not hurt his situation at all. Because we'll talk about that once we get to our next race at Dover. But yeah, I mean, tale of two tales. Chris Blanchard gets the win. Ashley Dotson, playoff driver, third seed, goes downhill from there.
It really does. And not just Ashley Dotson, but a driver who overcame a bad situation coming out of Michigan. Taylor Peacock got another EOL, had to start from the back of the field the next week at Dover. And I mean, talk about 2 drivers who had their backs against the wall, but one just stepped up to the plate at Dover, and that was Taylor Peacock. They both started at the back of the field. I called this race alongside, I want to say my buddy Wesley Outland was there on the call with me. Uh, and just an absolutely amazing race. No cautions other than the stage cautions, Brady. And there were some incidents where we thought we were going to get a couple yells, but the drivers kept control. They kept their composure. And at the end of the day, a little bit of strategy played its part in stage number 3. And Phil Pappas steals the win after Keith Bradley speeds on pit road. But really, the story of it should be Taylor Peacock starting last, driving through the field, getting stage points in both stage 1 and stage 2, getting himself in, unlike Ashley Dotson, who just never really made a move forward throughout the race at all.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I look back and I don't know if I believe the whole, saving a set of tires. I want to say they had four sets totaled. So you're throwing away two with the stages if you're running up front, and then you have that one left for that green flag pit stop, which we saw. And I mean, Phil Pappas, phenomenal job, with going in, a couple laps before everybody else, kind of leapfrogging and staying there and being able to manage his tires throughout that last run. So congrats to Phil Pappas. Great job. I mean, that's his second win this season for BP of Racing for Autism. So great job by those guys. Always like to see them get in victory lane. But yeah, Taylor Peacock, him and Ashley starting the back next to each other. Taylor comes up there, gets stage points, steals them, in my opinion. And then
Yep.
we saw a lot of people just bouncing off a turn four wall. We know it comes up fast. Everybody knows that whenever you race at Dover, but we've seen people bounce off the wall, but they were able to maintain. Everybody was showing a lot of awareness, and I thought it was just a great job by everybody doing their part. Like you said, no cautions, just a great fun race. And I kind of made the joke after the race was, we ran 150 laps, and I was like, man, if y'all were going to run that great, we would have done 200. So, it's always kind of hit and miss. You never know how the races are going to go, but it's good to see them, have a great race like that with no cautions and just running through it. I think they finished the race in like an hour and 15 minutes, Tyler.
No, it was absolutely great, and that gave Wesley and I a ton of time to do post race. I think you were also on the call for that race. Actually, now I think about it, Brady, with us for a little bit to start, and then Wesley came in somewhere around stage three. Um, and like you said, an amazing race really showed the talent of the drivers in the Concerns of Police Survivors Truck Series. But I want to talk about your driver, Keith Bradley, speeding on pit road on the money stop and does not win the race after being one of the top three drivers, the first one to come to pit road. Phil Pappas follows him in, leapfrogs everyone else in front of him, which included Jeff Merck, who led every lap in stage one, and Adam Newton, who dominated stage two. Bradley makes the mistake on pit road. Phil Pappas doesn't, gets the track position, and then just holds off Jeff Merck for the final 30 laps.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this in the past with Keith. We've seen him make these mistakes. Not sure if it's just over aggression. We talked to Jeff, if you remember, in post race interviews, and he brought it up. There was a lot of guys that were using the middle of the track, and middle of turn 3 and 4 to kind of use that arc to get down to pit road and get down to pit road speed. I'm not sure if Keith was using the apron, what he was doing, if he was doing that. Jeff told us that he was very, very cautious about get on and off pit road. That's why Phil was able to leapfrog him by 3 seconds. But at the end of the day, would you rather finish, second, or would you rather finish? I want to say Keith finished 11th or something in that race, or even further back than that. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
either way, uh, I mean, it's just a big mistake by somebody who's a championship favorite.
Yeah. And really, unfortunately, it kind of just, even though Keith advances of it, none of his own doing, the situation gets worse from here for Keith, right? As we move on, that was the last race of the round of 14, set up our Elite 10 here in the Concerns of Police Survivors Truck Series. Last week, they go to Martinsville, 200 laps. Some reason, Brady, Martinsville just brings out the worst in us, whether it's, our drivers, me and you, like, a lot of cautions. Jeff Merck led 155 laps. Probably half of those at least were under caution, if I had to guess. We had some controversy stemming from, struggles on restarts and so on and so forth. And that win locks Merck into the championship six when really we weren't even sure if Jeff Merck was going to even race at Martinsville. He wasn't even sure until about 2 days before the race.
Yeah, there was a lot of chatter. Jeff had a company Christmas party. Keith Bradley had to work overtime. It was his turn to work overtime. So a lot of first seed, second seed, top two guys that we would probably pick right now to win the championship if we were not knowing that they were going to be, if they were going to be at Martinsville. We're going into that race, you and I, if we did a podcast that Thursday saying, hey, either Jeff's going to win, Keith's going to win, but either way, these are our two championship favorites. One of
Yep.
them is in a really, really bad hole right now. Going into Talladega tomorrow night. The other one doesn't really care. All he has to do is run one lap, and he is locked into the championship six. Rightfully so. I would like to know from him if he's watching, if he can type up in the chat. I think it would be funny to know. I know he's probably going to run the. He's probably racing right now in the PGR race, Talladega every Thursday night. PGR runs that race, but if Jeff would let us know, is everything all right with the job that he missed a Christmas party, or was he able to go to the Christmas party and just left early? It'd be nice to know that if he's
True.
watching.
Those are big times to, smooze on the boss, try and improve that Christmas bonus. Yeah, we're getting closer and closer when the big bonuses come out. And a lot of fun's had by a lot of different companies out there. But yeah, Jeff Merck gets the job done at Martinsville. Keith Bradley mentioning in the comment section on YouTube that I was actually speeding on exit. And it's crazy. Wesley and I talked about how difficult of a pit road Dover is. It is really, really hard, but it's generally on entry you make the mistake. The fact that Keith just sped on exit, unfortunate for him, got a little too aggressive getting on the gas, getting off pit road, trying to get as much track position as he could. Costs him the win, in my opinion, because he was off pit road pretty clearly ahead of Pappas. I don't think Merck would have caught him because at a track like Dover, when the tires wear, Brady, it is all about getting to pit road first and using those fresh tires to your advantage. But you can't have too much of a gap that you get run down heavily on the back end. So they pitted at the perfect time. It just didn't work out for Keith.
Yeah, and we're talking about Martinsville and whatnot. I remember the Monday night series. Not to get off topic or
Oh
whatnot, but
God,
Monday night
that was
series
a rough race.
running in. I think we had like, I want to say right at 20. 20 comes to mind. I think Tim Hammond said 20 comes to mind, cautions, and then we saw here. I mean, I didn't even upload the EOL videos in the Discord
It would
today.
have been too many. Would have
Yeah,
been too many.
and so the EOL report, I've showed you the EOL report. It was
It's long.
placed in the board chat for verification reasons. That's why. But well, of course, we had some protests too that went down. So it's just a lot of, I don't really get it. I know Keith Bradley made a strong comment about we can race at Dover and not have one caution, but we go to Martinsville and we have 15
Lose our
cautions.
minds.
Yeah, and it's just make it make sense is what Keith said. And I agree. You have to agree.
Yep.
Whether you're running mid pack towards the end, up front, vice versa. You could be there one week, could not. As we saw, these first three races in the Monday night series is all over the place with finishes. But
Yeah.
why can't we, go 150, 200 laps around Martinsville? And I've talked to Adam Dubert about this. You're going to have cautions. It's part of racing, right? There's no
Yep.
way you're going to get away from it, especially when we race so close together. As you can see, us at Las Vegas, two by two by two for 10 to 12 rows. You're going to have that, caution, experience throughout these races. But, I would like to,
Shouldn't
instead
be
of
as bad as
15,
it is.
yeah, instead of 15 maybe at Martinsville, let's cut it down to 5. I could take 5. I think everybody could
I would
take
take
5.
anything in the single digits. I
Yeah.
would take
So
anything less than 10 at this
yeah.
point.
So it's like, man, we just need to figure it out. I almost want to make everybody practice it. Like maybe we should make it to where we have to run Martinsville every single week, and we cannot race another track until we perfect it.
God, that'd be awful. I remember a couple races, a couple seasons ago in the Friday night series, we had a pretty bad race in Martinsville, and it was Ted Wade, Keith Bradley, myself, Jacob Klinkart, and Jose Luis Rivera, top 5 the entire night. And the 5 of us never so much as even came close to wrecking each other. But everyone behind us just kind of wrecked. And I think it requires a lot of patience from a lot of drivers. And trust me, I was shocked. I love Jose. I was shocked he didn't run any of us over in that race. But he was patient, which is, sometimes he isn't. But that race specifically, he was very patient. The top 5 of us started top 5, and we finished top 5 because we never wrecked each other. It was great up front. The problem was we couldn't go more than 10 laps. I think the longest run was the last run of the race. It was like 15 laps. And we had great racing, especially between like Keith, Wade, and I, who were trying to get by each other. but we never wrecked each other. It requires patience that a lot of guys just I don't know if they don't have it. I don't know if their brake biases are set up wrong. Like they keep their brake bias for their qualifying hot lap, Brady, and don't adjust it for a race situation. I don't know what it is, but something has to change with how some of these drivers race Martinsville.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said. I won't comment on the Jose part because we're going to dive into a lot of Jose Luis Rivera later on in the
Hey,
show.
hey,
So
he's got a win that we
I
have to
know,
talk about
I know, and we'll
after
probably
getting
get
an EOL in the same
yeah,
freaking race.
we'll probably get to it a lot sooner than you think before the Monday series. But no, just it's I remember doing a podcast one time and we were coming off of Martinsville from the Monday race, and we both said in the pre podcast, whatever you want to call it, we were talking and it was like we're not talking about Martinsville. We're just not going to do it,
I
and
remember, yeah, we
we did.
skipped it.
We skipped it, the whole entire segment of it, and we just kind of looked back 2 weeks ago and then kind of previewed the next week because it was just so bad. But
I do
uh,
remember that.
it would be nice to kind of move past it, and it's scary to even think to
But
put
we
it on the
have to talk
schedule.
about it because of the points implications, right? It is the round of 10. There's only two races, Martinsville, Talladega. And the way things played out cost a lot of drivers, situations where they would be maybe plus in points. But listen to the four drivers right now below the cut line. Stephen Thomas, -6. Robbie Richards, -10. Justin Lumpkin, -13. Keith Bradley, -42. Obviously, he didn't race. But Richards and Thomas both got disqualified because of a protest on a second EOL. And they probably went from plus points to negative points on that cut line now. And it is a race, despite how bad it may have been, Brady, that had huge implications in the championship hunt for Keith missing, for Thomas and Richards getting disqualified due to a second EOL. Meanwhile, now Merck wins, Peacock's plus 21, Doucette's plus 19, Newton's plus 13, Hess's plus 8, and White's plus 6. And we're going to Talladega where literally anything can happen. And honestly, I would say this right now, Brady. I think Peacock's locked in. We're going to Talladega. I expect him to get points. I'm not worried about Peacock at Talladega. Joey has been hit or miss at these types of tracks. Same with Adam Newton, same with Kyle Hess, same with Justin White. Although Justin White had a great performance in the Monday night series at a super speedway to get himself into the championship 6, I believe. So I actually think White's probably more comfortable than Hess, despite being the driver on the cut line.
Yeah, and to your point, I expect to see Justin White, that is, leading the stages, being aggressive to get stage points,
He has to
and
be.
coming out with a top five finish. You have to be. There's no safe spot. The thing that kind of is different, I think, about this series compared to our other series is that, we're seeing a fall off because of a rule that was made by myself. Um, but it's all about making a rule and kind of testing out the data for one season to see how it
Mm-hmm.
unfolds. And the one rule that will be changed is the lack of having part timers race with us throughout the playoffs, people making minimum starts to race in the playoffs or whatnot. um
Yeah,
so I only expect 20 to 21 people to be there, and I think that's
which
going to
hurts
hurt.
Keith.
It's going to very much hurt Keith, and I'm not saying that because I want to see Keith be able to do it to make it his way in. It's the simple fact of, like, you take a guy like Taylor Peacock. He's got some points up there, and a guy like Justin Lumpkin, Robbie Richards, they could have great races, and Taylor could not have a great race, but he only, finishes 21st, where he's still getting, 19, 20 points.
I agree.
He's not, it's not so much of a big differential of having 43 guys on the track or even 35 guys to where you're like, holy crap, I just went, from 10th to 35th. I just lost 25 points.
Yep.
And I bring up those names not out of disrespect. It's just the example that could be made. A guy could just basically start and park himself and be comfortable of getting in. And that's not
Yeah.
what we set it up for. We
No.
saw this Talladega cutoff race on Monday night, and it was phenomenal. And I hope that, we have a phenomenal race
Yep.
tomorrow. I just think that when you break it down, like you and I usually do, Tyler,
Hmm.
it doesn't make sense to not have the number of entries in the field, and it doesn't make sense to be able to just kind of walk your way into the championship. And I'm not saying that about Taylor Peacock. Taylor Peacock has
I
been
agree.
racing his tail off lately. I'm so proud of him.
He's
Yeah,
improved so much from,
yeah,
and this is the Peacock we saw 4 or 5 seasons ago, competing for wins, competitive, and then he kind of hit a slump in my opinion. Like he missed the playoffs in the Friday night series at one point, which was a shock. But he didn't perform well for an entire regular season, and he's back to being a confident driver, not just at super speedways, but we'll get into another race where he played a pretty influential role in the Monday night series here in a bit. Like he's back to being the Taylor Peacock that I think is a top 10 driver week in, week out in most series, most racetracks.
absolutely. But you know, switching gears, we've got to talk about this race tomorrow night. There's so
Yeah.
much on the line. We're seeing, I was looking at the standings today, and Jeff, Jeff's Jeff. He's
Yeah.
Jeff.
He's locked in. He
He's going
runs
to
a
be
lot.
great. Um, I don't think I'm ready to pick him just yet. I'd like to
I,
see who actually
what's
makes it.
the championship track? Old Atlanta, right?
Old Atlanta,
Okay.
mile and a half, Old Atlanta. But I would like
Yeah.
to, before we get to that point, maybe in the next episode, we can
Yeah.
at least see who's there. Just out of respect for the other drivers that's fighting to at least make it in there.
I
Um,
agree.
but looking at names like Joey Doucette, great shot. Justin White, great shot. Kyle Hess, you know, Justin Lumpkin's not out of it. Robbie Richards, even with the penalty, and Stephen Thomas with the penalty, they're still not out of this thing. But
No.
Taylor
They're close
Peacock,
enough to
I
White and
mean,
Hess.
it's great to see these guys, instead of other names. It's good to see just other people being able to have a good playoff and make it this far, because we're not used to seeing guys, especially Kyle Hess.
Yeah, I agree, and really, what a resurgence it's been for Kyle Hess. We always know he's had speed in the past, but he always is kind of been more of a short run speed kind of driver. He qualifies well, but kind of fades on the long runs, and then has bad luck because in the long run he's further back and gets in trouble. So
Absolutely,
great to see
absolutely.
him in the position +8 right now, fifth in points coming into Talladega. But I got to say, Brady, I think one driver below the cut line, only one, gets into the top six after Talladega. Uh, I'll tease that for the final lap because I'm going to bring up the final lap topic of you picking your championship six for the Friday night series because there's a Police Survivors Truck series. So Brady,
Okay.
you'll have a little bit of time to think about it as we continue on. I do want to point out though, like you mentioned, the field minimum field rules. I would argue that one of the best races the Monday Night Series has ever had in its history was the final race of the regular season for season 2 in the DSR Electric Truck Series. Chris Blanchard won, but he didn't have the minimum starts, so he couldn't get in. And the points battle for 20th is so good year after year, season after season here in Nazareth that I wish we lowered the minimum starts order race in the playoff because honestly, there's not a ton of cautions in the last race of the season. Why do we feel like guys who haven't reached, 10 starts, 7 starts, whatever it be, can't run? Because when they show up at Talladega at the end of the season, they really don't cause that many wrecks. They really aren't. Like statistically speaking, I bet if you looked at it, the cautions in the last race, the finale, are probably caused more by full timers who have been there every single week than they are the part timers who just show up for super speedways and dirt tracks and so on and so forth. So
Well,
I'm glad we're adjusting the rule a little.
the mindset behind that was not that case. You take a guy like a Blake Lothian, perfect example. Shout out to Blake. Thank you for everything that he does for us, whether it's race controlling, racing, announcing. Blake is a big contributor to Nazareth. Shout out to
Love
him
Blake.
wherever he's at. Um, but take Blake for instance. And I know Blake. Everybody has a schedule, right? That's why they run part time. But the idea of the rule was not to count people like him out of the playoffs.
I agree.
The idea of saying that Brady LaBeouf or Tyler Dittmer are part timers on Friday nights and they shouldn't be allowed to run was not the rule that I was going for. What I was
The intent of the
trying
rule
to
is
do,
guys who weren't there
well,
for brand new
well,
guys, really.
brand new guys, but at the same time, I'm in sales, and
Yeah,
it was to invoke more people to just because you run part time, don't run the super speedways, the Daytona, the Talladega. Make more races to be involved to where you have to run in the playoffs because you have the minimum 7 starts. It was to bring
yeah,
more entries into the league and prizes and payouts per race. That was the mindset of the rule, was to make those guys like say, hey, I've got to make sure that we got 14 races in regular season. I've got to make my 7 starts somewhere. Whether it's here, there. I'm going to make
right.
my 7 starts so that I can continue to race into the playoffs. And it just kind of backfired on me. We changed the rule, but
Yeah,
what's shout out to Joey Doucette. He actually was a big because I actually asked the guys on Fridays like, hey, can we just
you
waive the
did.
rule? And Joey was a big a driver that was against it as far as like, hey, I don't want to get wrecked by a part-time guy. Like I'm racing for a championship, but then come to find out, Joey gets wrecked by a full-time guy on Monday. So it was kind of, like, hey,
Doesn't really matter, right?
it could happen either way. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but yeah,
It, yeah.
I would definitely like to hear your take. I know we're going to get into it sooner or later, but I would definitely like to hear not your champ six picks. We'll get into that in the final lap, but I would like to hear a race winner for tomorrow night.
Yeah. I don't think Peacock does anything stupid based on the field size that puts him in a bad position to potentially get wrecked. Yeah, our producer in our ears just chimed in and says Keith's going to win, which doesn't matter to get in. He has to race his way in on points because he missed the start um, at Martinsville. I'm going to say Justin White. You know what? He should have probably won. I don't think he won at Talladega at the cutoff race for the Monday night series, did he? No, he just pointed his way in.
Yeah, he
I
proved his
think he
way.
finally gets the win at a super speedway that he deserves. He's a very talented super speedway racer, knows how to work the air. I think he gets the win and guarantees himself into the Champ Six.
I'm gonna go with a sleeper pick. Oh, like off the wall sleeper pick. This guy's never won a
Non-playoff
race,
driver?
non-playoff driver. He's never won a race in Nazareth, and I just think that because of the intensity that's going to ramp up, you're going to have some people that feel like they're locked in. They don't need to do anything crazy, because of the lack of entries. Like, hey, I'm running, eighth, and I'm okay. Is
Yeah,
staying right eight. I could finish 8th to 12th, and I'm okay. But there's other guys that have nothing to lose, and I think one
I
of those
agree.
guys, whether it's a wreck at the end or something happening, I think this one guy breaks through and gets his first win ever in Nazareth. I'm picking
Stop
Raul
teasing
Meza.
me.
I'm
There
picking
we go.
Raul Meza.
Wow,
And it's not a
that's
bad
huge.
pick if you think about it.
No,
If
I
you
don't disagree. He runs pretty decently super speedways. A lot of guys may not like running around him. I've heard that consensus before, but he's fast. I'll give him that. He's always generally in the top 10 for most of the race, so he knows how to be up front. I don't know if someone's going to be not afraid to push him to a win. I would love to see it because Raul's been around for a long time. He's dedicated to Nazra. He's run really solid in the past. And, I really want him to get a win because he's always, unfortunately been, he'll have good races but get in trouble or something along those lines, right, Brady?
Yeah,
Doesn't
and
have
sometimes it's
great
coming to
races
the start
often.
finish line.
Yeah, I agree. I've
But
been
yeah,
there with him. It's a good pick. I don't hate it. I don't hate it that much. There's definitely worse drivers I think you could have picked that I don't think have a
absolutely.
chance. One of those drivers I think will go from No, I'm not gonna say that. I think anyone has a chance at Talladega because I don't think it requires that much talent. That's my opinion on super speedway racing, though, Brady.
I still think it's fun. I enjoy it.
It's fun. I
And
hate it.
maybe it's because I have a win there, is
Yeah,
why I
shut up.
enjoy it. But I
You also had a
mean,
win taken away there
yes, yes. But
by
hey,
yourself.
shout out to my buddy Keith for pushing me.
Yeah, I think my best finish at super speedway is second, and that gave Jose his first ever win in Nazareth. It was Talladega, the Friday Night Series. He still owes me something for that. All right. Well, I think we're now a third of the way into the show. Goal is to be done around 11, an hour and a half show tonight, Bray. I think it's time to move on to the hot lap. We're only doing 3 questions tonight each because we have a lot to cover in the Monday night series as well, and of course the final lap. Hot lap again for all those of you who have been watching. I think we get a minute 30 to respond, right, and then 45 seconds for our own opinion. Minute 45 and then like 45 or whatever after. Thank you, our producer, for chiming in. Brady, I'll let
Yeah.
you have the floor for the
Well,
first question.
yeah, and we both agreed we would do three each tonight,
Yep.
instead of our typical four or maybe even five sometimes. But
6
yeah, we've
sometimes.
done six. But we
Done a
agreed that
lot.
we would do two Nazareth and one NASCAR. You
Yep.
have no idea what my NASCAR one is,
I'm
so
so
I'm going to
scared.
actually save that one for last. And
Touche.
my first one, the topic's going to be Jose Luis Rivera. What is going on with Jose Luis Rivera? My question to you is: we see him win at Phoenix Raceway. Even Jose was shocked. Never would have thought he would have won at a track like Phoenix. You know, Jose's typically winning at super speedways or tracks like Vegas or whatnot that act like a super speedway. But Jose gets the job done at Phoenix Raceway. My question to you, Tyler, is: are you surprised?
Phoenix, yes. But I want to say that he has been moving in the right direction, right? He's been finishing more consistent. He's been qualifying better at a lot of these tracks. He ran a great race. He was up in the top 10 when he got his EOL at Phoenix. Mind you, he had an EOL and overcame it at one point. He wasn't, the driver who I thought would win coming in. But then you have the incident with Hunter Parsons, Joey Doucette, Stephen Thomas, Cole Henriksen, again in an incident. He gets the win. I know he's shocked. I was shocked too. But at the same time, he took advantage of the situation. I have to give him credit for that. And I've been teammates with Jose on the Friday Night Series for a long time now. I think about a year and a half, a couple seasons at least. And I just feel like this is a positive step. I think when he won Michigan, which is really a super speedway, was a positive step for him because it's not like, Talladega where he got his first win. His second win coming at Michigan, big win for him. Really cool to see. His third win now coming at Phoenix. He has top fives in short track races before Brady. It's not really shocking to see him perform well at Phoenix. That's kind of like a short track. I know he says he doesn't like the track, but I've seen the talent there. The problem with Jose is sometimes he's impatient. I love Jose. I give him all the credit in the world. I'm glad he got the win. But you could also make a pretty serious claim that Chris Cinnamon allowed him to win that race. Because I think Chris Cinnamon could have bumped him and not wrecked him and stole that win in 3 and 4. So again, huge shout out to Chris Cinnamon for not wrecking Jose, allowing Jose to get a win. But Jose deserved it full and through.
Well, I'm going to agree with everything that you said. I'm a big fan of Jose. I've worked with Jose on the side. He's never ran for Mission One Esports, but I've always stayed kind of close to him. He's helped me out in the past with the league, graphics or whatnot, just to kind of be involved. But yeah, I was surprised just from the standpoint if we're going into Phoenix, I would probably pick 15 guys before Jose, and he's
Easily.
probably laughing at that comment, but it's true, and he knows it, and he would even agree with me on that one. But
Yep.
I'm so happy that he got the job done. And I can tell you this, not just Jose, but there's a lot of guys that I'm seeing running up front more these days. Chris Blanchard comes to mind, Taylor Peacock, Jose, Raul Meza. It's great to see, especially from Jose, And I like the Jose, the driver that we're seeing right now, because this is the Jose that we saw last season make the championship six and go try to win a championship. I still don't think that he's there, but he is getting there 1 week at a time.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I'm actually going to stick with the Monday night theme for my first question. And my first question is about a driver I mentioned in our little pre-show discussion, and that's Cole Henriksen. Cole Henriksen, last lap at Daytona, was first for a little bit, then third, then gets spun around, then has an issue where he gets sent down to like 30 something in the end. Las Vegas, last lap, he's like third or fourth, gets hooked, finishes 17th. Then you go to Phoenix, wins stage one, fifth in stage two, runs really great. Then at the end, his teammate makes a boneheaded maneuver, in my opinion, and leads to a giant wreck, which takes him out. What does Cole Henriksen have to do to finish a race, for crying out loud, Brady?
Man, I feel bad for Cole. I really do. For the viewers that don't know, it's Cole's first season with us. And we typically see this, Tyler. We typically see guys that are new come in, and it's nothing to their fault. We've all been there. And when I mean everybody, we've all been there when we join leagues like this. We all think, hey, we're going to come in, we're going to, not, we're going to steal the show. And I'm not saying that Cole said that to himself or told anybody that, but he has been performing really well. We've seen him win the Clash. The first race of the season, we kick off Clash, and he goes out and wins it. Daytona Speed Weeks, we saw him, competitive. Like you said, running there, being pushed by his teammates. You got three highline guys in a row pushing you to victory, and it just doesn't work out. You end up going down pit road speeding. You had to give up your position. Then, as you know, this race behind me, Vegas, Joey Doucette should have lifted. I understand you're racing for third and fourth, but you were not going to make the pass to finish third, so you should have lifted, come home fourth. Cole comes home third. I think Vegas is the one that probably he feels more upset about than Daytona, just because it was there, right? You're just coming off the corner. He's going to push Taylor, or he might dive down to the bottom. Who knows? But no matter what, I think Cole finishes third at Vegas. And then we go on to Phoenix, win stage one, running the top 10. He practiced, qualified first, was fastest in practice, showed a ton of speed in Phoenix. There was a lot of strategy throughout that race, which I was really proud of,
Yep.
because we saw a lot of people go to the front, a lot of people slide to the back, a lot of mix bagging going on back and forth. At one point, I was racing Chris Cinnamon for 33rd. The next minute, we were racing for 7th. It's just the way it kind of panned out. But at the end of the day, Cole's right there. Probably if Hunter doesn't make that move, Hunter probably goes on to win maybe, and Cole finishes second or third. I mean, Stephen Thomas was up there. There was a couple of guys, but I still think Cole finishes top five. He could be sitting real pretty in the points, but right now he's, mid pack, even worse. The stage points are going to help him, but he is underperforming by not having enough luck to finish the races, I would say. Whoever has the horseshoe definitely needs to pass it on to Cole soon. But I do see Cole rebounding. I don't think this is the end for him at all.
I agree with everything you said here, right? Cole has the talent. I'm not worried yet. But man, it just kills your confidence when you're doing so well and you have yet to finish a race inside the top 15. Screw top 10, top 5, top 15 after, leading laps, being top 5. I think he's like second in the league in stage points. It might even be first for all that matters because he's running up front consistently. He qualifies well. All of that, and two of the three incidents were caused by his teammates, more or less. I mean, you can make an argument that the Daytona one, he got a little loose, lost control of the truck. Jason didn't have anywhere to go. Hunter fished them all off, whatever. But Phoenix, his teammate's a little over aggressive. He gets caught up in the big wreck. Vegas, other guy, not his teammate, over aggressive unnecessarily, gets caught up in a wreck. Like the dude just cannot buy a break, and I really feel bad for him because he's a super great talent and honestly like a really nice dude. I've gotten to know him obviously through Highline Racing, but also through running a different series is how I met him. Super talented, but man, it does kill your confidence when you're not able to finish races like that after just being up front all the time. I mean, it, the luck will change. I agree with you, Brady. I don't think he's in trouble, especially with all the stage points he's getting. I think even if he continues this really bad string of luck, he'll still probably make the top 20 in the playoffs because of the amount of stage points he's getting alone. But man, it would really do a lot for his confidence and really just for like, attitude in general, just to be able to finish a race in the top five, maybe even win one. But honestly, I think he just wants a top five at this point. Yeah,
Yeah.
just a rough start to his year.
No doubt, no doubt, and I'm sure he'll be fine. And look, you remember Tyler when we were interviewing a guy like Lance Miller, a guy like Hunter Parsons, a guy like Justin White. They were
Terrible
ready to
starts to their
ready
seasons.
to quit the first six races of the season, and they ended up
Yep,
in the championship six. So Cole, I mean, don't give up. It's everybody wants to finish in the money. Everybody wants to, run well, but you're going to have days like this. Sometimes if you're not doing your own doing, and sometimes of not your own doing, if that makes sense. So,
agreed.
uh, moving on. My second question for you, Tyler, is well, since we're in the round of the Elite 10 for Friday
Yep,
nights, the Cops, the Concerns of Police Survivors Truck Series on Friday nights. You can catch that race at 9 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow on Nazareth 360 Racing Network. But the round of 10, the Elite 10 is the topic. I started thinking about this whenever we were talking about doing the podcast today. And looking back, I like where Talladega is on the schedule. I
yep.
love that it brings the drama, the emotion, how everybody feels after the race. That's why it's always locked in right there. The one thing that I will say is maybe Martinsville was the wrong track. I'll go out and say it's for myself. I think Martinsville was the wrong track to tie into Talladega for this round. My question to you is, what track should it be?
I still like the idea of a short track before Talladega. I don't want another intermediate, right? I mean, look at, the round of 14, Dover, Michigan. Yeah, Michigan's a super speedway. Dover kind of races like an intermediate, really fast, but obviously not drafting. The round before that had what, Miami, Darlington, that's 2 mile and a halves in it. I don't love a mile and a half in that spot. What I want to see, maybe not Martinsville, but a short track that's pretty drivable, in my opinion. And that short track is Iowa. Iowa runs pretty similar to Richmond. I don't think it's as challenging as Richmond. It has a little bit more banking on the back straightaway, so you're not such a flat transition coming off of two, which is where a lot of drivers spin out at Richmond. Um, Also, a little bit more banking on the front straightaway transition off of four. Really, really good, in my opinion. It's a lot less, it's easier than Richmond, but at the same time, it still is a short track, requires braking, requires patience. You're all packed in, 3/4 mile track. It's mimicked after Richmond, just a little bit more banking to help. I think Iowa is a great spot, and I love Iowa. I remember racing it in season one of Nazareth, having a great time. Season two, I think you could do Iowa. I think you could do Richmond too, if you want a little bit more challenging. I love Richmond. I have a win at Richmond. I think it's a great track. I don't think Martinsville's the best. I don't want to see Hickory, as Huck Wigington has put in the live questions comment, because I remember when Ted Wade won at Hickory and I finished second. I think we ran 130 laps under caution in a 180 lap race. It was pretty terrible. Yeah, if you're going to try to avoid cautions, I would say Iowa or Richmond.
Yeah, so if we had to lock in a track to where this round would be locked for good, and I wouldn't maybe necessarily do that. I would like to see a couple of tracks that maybe rotate with it.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea. Iowa is a great pick. I was actually thinking to myself, Iowa, and you say Iowa. So we're kind of sinking right now. But another track that comes to mind is New Hampshire. Not
Oh,
that bad.
not
You
really
know,
a intermediate. Yeah, it's a mile, but
yeah,
it doesn't race like one.
right. It's just twice the size of Martinsville. It's flat. But also we just went to a Dover. Dover. maybe a good pick for right here. And Dover, New Hampshire, Richmond, Iowa kind of rotation might not be bad.
Yeah, I think any of those tracks are fine. We had a great race at Dover. I don't hate New Hampshire because honestly, New Hampshire was a lot of fun. In my opinion, you can run the apron, a lot of challenges for the driver. Yeah, just absolutely fun, a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm okay with those four. Honestly, like kind of rotating for that Elite 10 round. My question to you, Brady, keeping the theme of Friday nights for the second set of questions. Keith Bradley, he misses Martinsville pretty much in a has to run the perfect race, has to qualify in pole, has to lead the most laps, has to win both stages, has to win the race, in my opinion, just to even have a chance at coming close on points. Zero incidents as well would help. I know he didn't have control over the situation and not making the Champ Six, but given his season, is this kind of a disappointment for him not making the Champ Six, even given the circumstances?
Yes. And it's not a shot at Keith. I love Keith to death. He's, I consider him a great friend, one of my best friends, just like yourself, Cody, etc. But your job is to race for championships when your name's Keith Bradley. Especially in this series, you are the biggest threat to Jeff Merck, and Jeff knows that. And so Jeff was probably jumping, doing backflips like a little schoolgirl on a playground whenever he knew that Keith did not make the race. Um, but life happens, right? Justin Lumpkin is a big advocate of this. Life takes over, which is why starting parks are so important with the new rules. You can actually just
Yeah.
pay the entry fee, and Keith could actually win at Talladega, and he could be in the Champ Six. That's a new rule. We're all, working people. We have families, we have kids. So, yeah, maybe it's not. Still in the same situation. 0 points, but at least he still has that winning your in factor in place, but not the old rules, which we're currently in this series with 2 races left. Then they'll transition over to the new rules. But yeah, Keith, I'm not going to say doesn't have a chance at all. He has a very slight chance of
Yeah.
making it, but yeah, I know Keith knows that he should be racing for championships, just like Jeff, just like Stephen Thomas, Chris Cinnamon, all those guys. They know that they're always typically in the championship 4 or 6 or whatnot. So anything less is a disappointment for them.
Yeah, I think whenever you have a driver who's able to fully commit to a full time season, I think there's a short list of about 8 names who I know there's only 6 championship drivers, but there's about 8 names who it's a disappointment if they don't make the Champ Six, depending on whatever league they're in. I think in Friday nights, those names are Jeff Merck, Keith Bradley, Adam Newt, and Joey Doucette. Like those four for sure at a minimum. I think on the Monday night side, obviously, yourself kind of disappointed if you don't make the championship uh, race, considering you've been in the last two. Um,
And Nate Maurer.
Nate Maurer, again, another driver. Honestly, I would say Hunter Parsons. Joey Doucette again, because he runs both series. And probably Adam Newbert now that he's back to full time. It's I don't want to say a failure, but it is a failure of a season if you don't make that championship race. I know life gets in the way. It's happened to me. But really, even when I missed the championship six in season two because of life getting in the way, it was a failure, right? I have the expectations coming in of being a championship contending driver. Keith has those same expectations, if not more so, right? I would put him above me in terms of NASRA drivers. So disappointing, yes, but I do understand the whole life getting in the way, especially me. I totally understand the position Keith's in. It sucks. It's unfortunate. The start and park rule helps him in the future, but unfortunately this season it's not going to.
Yeah. And I would point out that you were the likely favorite going into the playoffs if you wouldn't have missed a race or whatnot. So,
And then I won in the round after I got eliminated, which is the worst
correct.
part.
And, I mean, you could harp on it, all day long. It doesn't really change anything. But at the end of the day, you know, you and Keith have shown that you guys are capable of probably the most consistent guys in each series, right? I would argue that to the point, even against the Adam Newtons, the Hunter Porsons, the Nate Mowers, the Adam Newberts. So it happened. I was actually happy. I didn't have to fight you every single week for it,
Helps.
uh, but it's just part of the gig, part of the life. I wish it wouldn't happen,
Yeah,
but it does, and I just hope that we can kind of progress as a league and kind of make it, better as we go. Like I think we have done. Coming
I
from
agree.
season 1, 2, and 3 to 4, 5, and 6. Now we're working on 7, 8, and 9. I just think it gets better and better each season, and I hope the guys appreciate all the thoughts that we put into it to progress it and evolve it to make it better.
Totally agree.
So my last question for you, Tyler.
I've been
Question,
worried about this question, by the way,
yeah,
the entire show.
we're switching gears to NASCAR, and my topic is Danica Patrick.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So there's been a lot of chatter in recent days, recent weeks, and I came across this one and I saved it because I would like to hear your opinion about it.
This has to
Uh,
be a rumor.
no, it's not a rumor. The
Oh.
question is, Danica Patrick, um, does she deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame? Go.
NASCAR? No, no way. I don't care. She doesn't deserve one in NASCAR. Now, I would make an argument. She does deserve slight consideration for IndyCar.
Well, because of
Eh,
your reaction, I'm going to say that this was a 52-48 split
This is a
on the
vote. Oh
votes.
my God. So, all right, if you look at drivers who have been inducted in the Hall of Fame for different reasons, right? If we're looking at maybe like a landmark award, kind of similar to how like announcers get into the Hall of Fame, sure. If you want to talk about it, she had a huge influence on getting female interested in NASCAR. She really did, whether people want to agree or not. Like she did. She also had a huge influence on other female drivers getting into NASCAR. Look at, I mean, Haley Deegan has admitted that she was a positive kind of role model. Maybe not like a someone she communicated with, but like someone she saw and was like, okay, I can do this too. Um, Same thing with a lot of other female drivers that race in the short track asphalt scene. Look to her. I don't think she moved the needle enough for NASCAR. That being said, I could see the argument being made for her in the IndyCar Hall of Fame. I don't even know if that's a thing. I'm just going to say it is. Because, one, she won a race. Two, she's the only female, I believe, to lead the Indy 500. And three, she really pushed women into the open wheel scene. Like, really did. Um, but NASCAR, I'm going to say no. There's not enough there, in my opinion. I don't even think she won a nationwide series race, which is what the whole thing was.
No, I think her
Um,
best finish was 6 there, or maybe
yeah, it was
4.
like sixth or fourth or whatever. I think it was at Daytona too. Yeah, she got a pole. Cool. Anyone can win a pole. Alex Bowman wins poles almost every year at Daytona. Um, Alex Bowman, probably not a Hall of Fame driver, in my opinion, unless he has like an amazing next 5, 10 years. Yeah, no, not NASCAR Hall of Fame worthy. I mean, you can make an argument that like freaking Jennifer Jo Cobb is a better argument for the NASCAR Hall of Fame for her truck body of work than Danica Patrick.
Yeah, so our producer's talking in our ear right now. He's going crazy. He's agreeing with Tyler, saying no. I'm going to agree also, but I also want to make the point for my argument is I agree with you. I think IndyCar has a Hall of Fame. Why wouldn't they have a Hall of Fame? She
Makes
deserves to
sense.
be more in that Hall of Fame than
Agreed.
NASCAR. I think she was brought over to NASCAR just like all the other ones, except for a select few, but most of it was, publicity of getting, females into the sport. Money played a role in that. Marketing played a role in that. Stuart Haas, I get it. But at the end of the day, I don't think she did enough performance wise. On top of enough of, you brought up the female fans. I've got my wife, my
Dale
mom,
Jr.
my
brought more
sister.
female fans in than Danica Patrick.
Yeah,
I will say that.
my wife didn't even think to even root for her instead of
I agree.
Casey Kane.
Oh, Casey Kane, another
he
great
he
driver, brought in female
he,
fans.
he had prettier eyes, as she would say. So I mean, I wouldn't say that she did enough, and I do like the argument of which the landmark of it, but at the same time, I don't think it's Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah, yeah, not for NASCAR. Definitely IndyCar. She has a pretty solid case, in my opinion, though. Uh, yeah. Anyways, moving on. Your NASCAR topic, and it's one of my favorite drivers to talk about, and I kind of hinted at it a little bit in the pre-race. Shane Van Gisbergen signs a deal with Colleague and Trackhouse. He will run full time in a Colleague car, along with AJ Allmendinger in the Xfinity Series. Josh Williams will be their third driver next season. Pretty interesting lineup for Colleague whatsoever. But on the Cup side, he's going to run both Talladega races for Trackhouse. He's going to run the Coke 600. He's going to run COTA. He's going to run the Chicago Street Course. He's going to run Watkins Glen, and he's going to run the fall Las Vegas race. That's his schedule for next season. Over under number of wins for Gisbergen, I'll set at 2.5 for Xfinity because I think he has a good chance at every road course. And then Colleague as a whole, I'm going to set that number at like 7 because AJ Allmendinger, every time he's raced in Xfinity for Colleague, has 5 wins in both full-time seasons he's ran.
So, man, I'm excited for him. I really like the Josh William was kind of a question mark for me. I feel like they were reaching maybe, or maybe
It
it
is a
was
bit of
kind
a
of
reach.
a sponsor deal that maybe money plays a role in a lot of it. I mean, hey, congratulations to them. It's definitely great
Great ride.
entertainment for them. Yeah. The cup thing I was surprised about. I thought he would run a little bit more. And I'm not saying, 20 races or whatnot, maybe 10, 12, a little bit more, maybe a little bit more of like short track,
Yeah, no
mile
short
and a half.
tracks on the schedule, interestingly enough for
So I
him.
just I just kind of thought in his development he would run a little bit more. Anyways, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's gonna get 3 wins in the Xfinity as a
Okay.
whole between him and AJ because AJ is just phenomenal in these cars. I'm gonna say 10 wins for Colic in the Xfinity series.
Wow.
Uh, just because I mean, what better driver to pair him with than AJ Allmendinger, especially for road courses, mile and a halves, anything AJ I feel like can win in the Xfinity car. So I'm kind of excited. I think it's a great move. Whoever did this for Trackhouse Colic, I think it's best for everybody involved, including SVG, but I think AJ is going to play a big role in what people think in developing him and getting him better on the oval tracks and getting him prepped for the Cup side. I would have liked to have seen him race some more different tracks on the Cup side. Both Talladega tracks is cool and everything, but I would have liked to have seen more of a diverse schedule for the Cup Series.
So I will say I'm disappointed he's not running the 500 because obviously very good opportunity with the Open plus bigger payouts. I'm glad he's running both Talladega, so he needs that super speedway experience on top of the Xfinity super speedway experience. I'm glad he's running the 600 because what better way to learn intermediate racing in this new car than 400 laps around Charlotte? Plus he's running Vegas in the fall. Then he has the 3 road courses. That was kind of obvious. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised they didn't do more road courses. They just didn't do all of the road courses. Um, I'm going to say him and AJ will lead over 90% of the laps on Xfinity race road courses next season. Like 90% combined. Like they will cover those tracks. I think SVG wins Portland, Chicago, and I think Watkins Glen's now still on the Xfinity schedule. I think he wins those 3. And I think Allmendinger will win 2 super speedways, 2 mile and a halves, and the rest of the road courses. That puts him at 6. So I'm pretty close to you, about 10 total for the team, 10-ish around that number. Yeah, I mean, they are going to be the greatest road course team in Xfinity next year. Like Vegas odds for Colleague Racing winning the Xfinity Series race at a road course are going to be probably minus odds because Lord help us, he's going to just dominate both of those two because they just are so good at it. And the Xfinity Series car, a little bit different than the Cup car, which is pretty similar to the Australian Supercar. It's going to be fun to watch. That's for certain. I'm very excited to see. I agree. I wish he would run a couple short tracks in the Cup car. Maybe not Martinsville because I think they're going to continue to change things with that one, so it might not be worth it. But Bristol, I would like to have seen him in. Um, so I don't know. It's just Van Ginsbergen. He's going to get better the more reps he gets. He finished top 15 in a truck, I think, at IRP. So it'll be good to see. I'm excited to see what he's got. But man, Collie might be the team to beat next year, Brady.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think Junior Motorsports is going to be Junior Motorsports. Joe Gibbs.
Sammy Smith's coming over.
Oh,
That's huge.
but at the end of the day, I think Colic is going to progress a little bit more. I'm kind of, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, AJ, cop out, coming back down to the Xfinity Series.
He
Who
wants a
knows?
title. Who
Funding.
cares?
Yeah, who cares? And I mean, hey, it's enjoy what you're doing. And if he would rather drive an Xfinity core, I would probably rather drive an Xfinity core if I was him than the next gen. But either way, I think it's great for everybody involved, like I said earlier, and I'm excited about the season.
Yeah, I might have to go to the Portland race for Xfinity next season because I'll be up in Washington at that point. I mean, what a race to watch. Watch those two wheeling around PIR. Sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Uh, now we got to move on to the Monday night series. That's the DSR Electric Truck Series in their third season. Since we've last been on the show, Brady, Daytona has happened, and then the West Coast swing of Las Vegas and Phoenix. We'll start at Daytona. A crazy last lap. Stephen Gregory throws a bad block, and just after they cross the start finish line, wrecks most of the field. That wrecked the continuous way around the rest of the track. As they come off of four, there's 5 trucks, 2 from Swim and 3 from Highline Racing. And you would think, logically speaking, Highline Racing's got this in the bag. They got the numbers. Well, instead of, the third Highline Racing car trying to force it 3 wide and maybe side draft the Swim pair apart, a third Highline Racing car gets a big run of steam, runs into the back of the second one, who was already offset with the first one because he got loose, and a giant, well, not a giant wreck, all 3 of them wreck, and Swim gets a very easy win with Brian Shu taking home the checkered. Great win for Brian Shu. I've been waiting for him to win one of these races for a while now. Especially, I remember watching him in the recruitment races before we started the Monday Night Series, Brady. But man, Highline Racing choked that one away.
absolutely, Tyler. And I mean, look, you bring up Brian Chu. He's probably been, besides Jason Morales, shout out to him for being our leader in the points right now. Him and Jason, Brian Chu, Jason Morales, some of the most consistent drivers on Monday nights that we're seeing right now. But like you said, it was only a matter of time before Brian Chu got a win. I was happy whenever I heard that he won. Um, I've, had conversations with Brian. Uh, I'm glad that he runs for a great team. Talk about Adam Newton, a very unselfish move to just um, push his teammate to win and not try to, go side by side or side draft off him and both of them wreck. Pretty much showed, and I'm not saying that that's what it should have been done or not should have been done, but I mean the big picture. Swim gets 1-2 finish at the biggest race of the year, Daytona, and Brian Chu gets the win. It just all came together for those guys with the help of Highline and their disorganized move, I guess you can say. And then we just seen it. We see this typical at Daytona, coming off of 4, that inside lane, it just gets unorganized. People hit each other in the wrong places. Checkups happen, and next thing you know, all 3 of them's in the infield care center. Uh, but I mean, it still was a great race. I want to say we only had, I mean, we went what 75, 80 laps with no cautions, besides the stage breaks. Then, typical super speedway racing, it kind of gets out of hand. We have a couple of cautions, and then we go to a green white checkered finish. Chaos happens at the end on the last lap. I think we had uh going into that lap, we had 36 trucks on the lead lap, and we all decided, you know, what 30 of us decided to wreck, 31 of us decided to wreck.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
was in that wreck with you, Brady. Trust me, I was on my few part-time
Yeah.
races.
So we all decided to wreck, and it's typical of what happens, but at the end of the day, it's part of it, part of super speedway racing. And we go to Vegas, and I thought Vegas was a great race.
Yeah, and I still want to harp on one last thing for Daytona. First, I believe 80 laps of a 100-lap race, green flag. The last 22 laps, because we ended up going 2 extra laps due to cautions, 4 cautions, 12 caution laps. So a little bit unfortunate end to really a great race. A lot of strategy involved. We had green flag pit stops in stage 3, and then it kind of all unfolded after that. But again, a huge shout out to Swim for getting the win with Brian Shu. Absolutely huge win for those guys. And you mentioned it really. Jason Morales, your points leader, I believe, still through 3 weeks. And a lot of it's just due to one, his stage finishes, but also just his consistency, right? At Daytona, he gets 16 bonus points. Doesn't get much at Vegas, but he still finishes fifth. So I think he's finished fifth in ever. Well, no, where did he finish at Phoenix? He didn't finish as great. He finished 11th at Phoenix, but 2 fifths and an 11th with, a decent amount of stage or bonus points puts him in a pretty good spot right now in the standings as he's our points leader by 10 whole points over Brian Shu. So not a bad start to the season for Jason at all. And then we turn to Vegas, the West Coast swing, the beginning of the West Coast swing. I was on the call for the race. Brady, if you had told me before the race, pick your 4 drivers that you think have a chance, I would have said you, Joey, Taylor, and Jose. And by darn it, y'all made me look like a genius for most of the race. And I would have
Yeah.
said, Brady's got it. And then I watched you make a mistake with about 4 to go. And that mistake was letting Taylor get to your outside. And man, to say I was disappointed is accurate. I was disappointed you didn't win. I'm glad Taylor won because he's really turned into a standout driver the last, 2-3 months, in my opinion. He's back to being the old Taylor. But to say, you didn't choke away the win would be wrong, in my opinion. I think you kind of choked it.
Oh, I mean, I would agree. My argument would be, I needed Joe to be closer to me.
That too.
Uh, I mean, I thought it was a great race. I know there was a little bit more cautions than what we wanted. We saw a couple of guys have some misfortune, and a lot of it is just kind of give and take. We know what Vegas races like at night, um, and it puts on a great show. I mean, if you didn't watch the race, you need to go back and watch it because it was a really good watch.
Great
Uh,
race.
and kudos to Taylor. I messaged him that night. I messaged him the next day after I watched the broadcast. I mean, he beat me fair and square.
He did.
I was happy with my performance. I led the most laps, won a
Did.
stage, got the most stage points. And then what ended up happening is after week 2, I had the most bonus points out of anybody going into Phoenix. So I was really happy where I was. Daytona was just crapshoot for me. I was having connection problems. I was blinking in and out, so I had
Yeah.
to run in the back. I really couldn't race Daytona like I wanted to, so it really, really bugged me. But bounce back at Vegas, have a great showing. Me and Joey, Jose, how you say his name, Cody? Castellanos,
Oh,
Castellanos,
Castellanos.
Castellanos,
Castellanos. Yeah.
Castellanos. I mean, hey, they we us three ran up there up front all night long and did not wreck anybody. We did
Until
not
he got
wreck.
wrecked. Castellanos got wrecked in that
Yeah,
big wreck near the end,
and then Joey
unfortunately.
wrecked Cole. But I knew, Cole was on fresher tires. I had some of my teammates kind of running with them, saw him come up through the field. That was my biggest threat. That's why I took the outside on the final restart. Yes, I led Taylor to my outside, but I really could not. I couldn't really see what was going on. Had I known, and I could say this, and I could also rebuttal it. I could say, well, I could have blocked Taylor, but then Cole goes to the inside of Taylor, and I'm having to deal with Cole. on
Yep.
fresher tires. Does he have the momentum coming off the corner to undercut me and get on the apron and put me three wide with Taylor? Or, does Taylor have enough momentum to push me to, get past Cole again? A lot of that was going through my mind, and I'll be honest with you, he was the one that I was worried about. That's why I put him on the inside behind Joey, because I knew that I could pull Taylor, which I did
Right.
on the restart, and kind of just race Taylor there. And I think what I really just needed was Joey to be closer to me. But after the race, he told me that he got fairly tight. And I could tell because Joey dominated the second stage. So with him not being able to run the bottom and hook the corner like he was able to in the early in the race, uh, goes to show you that he was tight a little bit, not making an excuse for him. I still think it was a dumb move that he made on the part of just lifting and finishing fourth and coming home with a great finish, finishing some money, having a great
Decent
point
bit of
day.
money. We've had
Yeah.
big fields every week so far in the
Yeah.
DSR
40,
Electric Truck Series.
$40, $40 for fourth place. I mean, take it. Um, Especially, a lot of these guys are sponsored, like, man, just take it and run with it. But uh, you
Got
know,
greedy.
Ta- Taylor gets me at the line. I actually thought I won. I was like,
It
yeah, I
was
got it.
close. It
Jacob
was so
Jacob was
close.
like, yeah, great job, and I was like, second, huh? But
0.007 or 0.009. I can't remember. I was on the
yeah,
call with
nine,
Wesley.
yeah.
Awesome race.
But at the end of the day, I mean, if I had to lose it like that, I I really don't mind losing it to somebody like Taylor Peacock. It's great to see him running up front, winning races, his old form, I would say. And I just, man, I just got too comfortable, and I wish I can go back, but at the same time, I still think, it really wasn't a bad move considering the X factor in Cole. It just, it's tough to kind of go back and see what I would have done different, but the race really did kind of play out into my favor. I really wanted it to go green because I feel like I was able to control the race and kind of keep Joey where I wanted him to.
Yeah.
Uh, so it just kind of, at the end of the day, it's all about the product. Like I said, I
It
think
was a
we
great race.
put on a great race, and I was happy about that going into Phoenix. Phoenix was just a wild card, in my opinion.
It
There,
was all over the place. We
uh,
had some good green flag runs, and then we had caution after caution after caution. Then we had some good green flag runs. On the call for that race was Dean Hopton with myself, Wesley Outland joining later in the show. Or no, my bad. Blake Lothian joined us later in the show in the third stage to help us continue the broadcast. Blake Lothian was also race control with TJ Moore for that race. That race had all the controversy you could have asked for if you love that stuff. Uh, yeah, it was a race, right, Brady?
oh, it was, and the
Why did you start at
strategy.
34th? How bad are you at qualifying now? Did
Oh,
you just not run a lap or something?
so I was in practice. I jumped all the way up to seventh or ninth,
Yeah,
and
you
I
were top
kind
10 in
of
practice.
I was watching a little bit of what some of the guys were doing, and I was like, okay, I see what they're doing. I'm gonna go try it. Well, I tried it, and I want to say I picked up like a tenth and a half, and I was like, oh man, this is what I need to do. Well, I didn't want to show it too much because in practice I was like 20th. I jump up to like 15th, then I jumped up to ninth, and I was like, okay, I must kind of calm down, run some like 10 lap splits, and kind of see where my tires are. And was really happy the way that the track was performing because they had grip in the track. We
Hmm.
ran it. It was the morning session, so uh,
Got worse as the race went on.
and that's what we wanted, right? We wanted it
Yep.
to kind of change throughout the run. Um, so we get to qualifying, and I tell the guys like, hey, I'm gonna go out early. I wanted to, and just so I can kind of get race ready or whatnot.
Right.
Well, I gave up the first lap on purpose, and typically I don't do that. And the reason why I don't do it is because I would rather have at least a conservative lap to where I'm, at least like 10th to 15th at worst.
Hmm.
Um, but I basically just threw the first lap away. I was like 2 seconds off the pace or whatnot on purpose. I was just kind of riding around, getting ready. And then I go to do my my hot lap on my second lap, and I come off of turn two, and I just spin it out. So I have to kind of live with the results of being in 33rd, 34th, and I was pretty mad and upset about it. But like I said, the guy that finished top
Second,
five, second, Chris Cinnamon,
started
he
33rd.
started right there next to me. So
Yeah.
I have no excuses for finishing 13th, but I did not account for the strategy and the way the race played out. I think Joey Doucette was phenomenal on that. Jason Bridges,
So was
Travis
Jose.
Quiddy, Jose, Chris Cinnamon, all those guys that you saw in the top five, top six, phenomenal job on the strategy. I didn't have it. I thought it was going to kind of play out the way I wanted it to. It didn't with the cautions. But I mean, a great race overall. I think Phoenix could have been better as far as some of the wrecking and self spins that we saw.
A
But
lot of self spins.
I think Phoenix gave us a more exciting race than what we see on TV or what
Agreed.
Phoenix is known for of being a boring track. Um, I think that it played a role in actually being a fun track to drive for most of the drivers would say. But I just think that I was behind the eight ball on knowing when to pit, when to maybe stay out. There was a couple of times where I was like, okay, maybe if I stay out, I can get some stage points. But it should have been whenever I pitted and kind of undercut the field for the next stage and got track position. Chris Cinnamon did great job of it, Joey Doucette, but I did not.
Yeah, and talk. You mentioned the self spins. I mean, we had talented drivers self spinning. Adam Newberg did it twice. Adam Newton did it first, like first caution of the race. Adam Newton self spins. Stephen Thomas misses a shift again. Probably needs to buy a new shifter. Considering it's the second race in a row he's had this issue. Uh, Jose gets an EOL. Who else got an EOL? I mean, a million people got an EOL. I mean, I think there was 11
Adam
people on the
Newberg,
EOL report.
yeah, Adam Newberg got a mischief EOL. I mean, there was
It was ridiculous at
there's
times, and a lot
one,
of Taylor Peacock self spun by himself
yeah,
on the outside in 3 and 4. I remember watching that, and then we had a couple of big wrecks, and it happened where I was talking with Dean and Blake where we expect them to happen, and that's on the back straightaway because that inside wall is right against the racing surface, as is the outside wall, and there's no space whatsoever. And we see late in the race, you have Joey Doucette leading. You have Hunter Parsons. You have Stephen Thomas and Cole Henriksen. Or it wasn't Cole Henriksen yet. He was a little bit further back, but there was 3 wide for second. And Joey blocks Hunter on the bottom. And Hunter just doesn't lift, just runs him right over and wrecks half the field. And then the tension started. Steven gets into Hunter under caution. Steve Barnett hits Steven for hitting Hunter, and the tempers start to flare between Highline Racing and Chrome Racing, Diet Swim, as I like to call them. Um, yeah, it kind of got out of hand for a little bit. And then Chrome Racing gets their first ever win because Jose Luis Rivera, who I guarantee if you asked that team before the season who'd get their first win, was not going to be him, gets the win. So what a race. Had everything you wanted, right, Brady?
definitely a wild outcome. I know
Crazy.
whenever I switched over from relative to standings, I did not expect to see Jose's name. I was proud of Jose. I've been kind of mentoring Jose lately. Uh, he would actually agree with that. I've been more involved with his racing because at one point he was not even going to race on Mondays, and I was able to talk him in and made a deal with him. So I've been kind of keeping close ties with Jose, even though that he races for another team. I don't look at
Right.
it that way. I love Jose. I like Jose in both series. I want to see him running. Warriors sponsored him in the past. So, I mean, just overall, just great job. I like to see the development of him. But yeah, the hunter. I mean, man, when is enough enough? I mean, I don't want to say that Joey. dumping Cole a week before at Vegas played a role in that. I don't want to think that way, um, but you never know. But
Yep.
at the end of the day, we all know the situation, right? I mean, it, Tyler, if you are leading or running up front and you go down pit road to get four fresh tires and you go in first and you come out fifth or sixth, you know that there's five trucks in front of you that have older tires than you. Whether
Agreed.
it's 5 laps, whether it's 10 laps, you know that you have the advantage on them, especially at a track like Phoenix, who's known for, wearing tires to an extent. So it's only a matter of time before you pass them. And Hunter knew, and there was a point in the race where Hunter got into Steven Thomas and kind of bumped him out the way, which is perfectly okay. Great job by him by moving Steven and not wrecking him.
Yeah.
And
No.
he made a comment saying trying to justify the move, which at that point I don't feel like you have to justify it. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't a bad move, but he tries to say, well, I had people shoving me into you. Well, when you look at the replay,
Not even
Chris
close.
Chris Cinnamon wasn't even close to him. So I
Nope. I
mean,
agree.
don't make excuses for it. Like own it. And you did
And that
nothing
was a
wrong at
good
the
move,
point.
in my opinion.
Exactly.
That move was a
Exactly.
good move.
It was a
And
great move.
Steven was upset about it, but it's like if like he didn't wreck you. He did
Exactly.
exactly what all of us hope to do effectively, and that's move a driver without wrecking them. And he
Exactly.
did it perfectly.
Yes, and I thought it was a great move because I would like to do that. I would like to
Yeah,
get
I
on
wish I
somebody's
was that.
bumper and just kind of push them out the way and just kind of dive underneath them and take the spot and like, hey, like that's what we want to see. Here we want to see. People always say like I got a question asked me the other day: was door banging allowed? Well, I mean, guys, like we don't mind. We're going to expect you guys to touch each other. We just don't want you to spin out each other or wreck each other,
Yeah.
especially on purpose. And it's like, man, you do that great of a move right there. You put yourself in position to win at Phoenix, and you just drive through Joey like he was standing still. You you could have. I know he's going to make the argument of, well, I got Steven, I got Cole back there. I still think you can let Joey make that corner and get underneath him and beat him into three, come off of four. Jason Bridges is up there on the same tire strategy as Joey. He wasn't going to be a factor to you. I think you go underneath both of them. You go smooth sailing, you control the rest of the race and win it. That's my opinion. And like I said before, the move on Steven, perfectly fine. Like perfect,
That's
like
it. That's
great.
what we that's like the
Yeah.
epitome of like perfectly acceptable racing.
Exactly, exactly. And just the move on Joey just kind of takes away from that because it starts this, trickle down effect where, people look at it as, you know, why am I getting the EOL for this and that? It's not just because you wrecked Joey.
No.
Look at the backlash of what happened. Cole's caught up in it. You got your own teammates that are getting caught up in it. You got other people, that are racing for, not victories, not so much victories, but just decent finishes. And you're
Right.
taking that away from them. And that's what makes it even worse than just wrecking Joey. You're not just wrecking Joey, you're wrecking the leader in the field and everybody else is coming off that corner full speed and you're taking out multiple guys. But congrats to Jason Bridges. He got a lot of damage from that. He was able to go on and finish fourth in that race. So great job by him. But yeah, and then we see the retaliation by Steven, which is never what we want to see, especially from a veteran like Steven Thomas, right? Like he
Yeah.
knows better. He's been with us long enough. Yeah, guys like that are supposed to set examples, not be the problem. Uh, and we just, Steve Barnett gets in the mix of it, has no business, no involvement in it,
Unnecessarily. Yeah.
because I get that high line is high line, and I get that you want to take up for your teammates, but at the
Yep.
end of the day, you end up costing yourself, the same penalty that Steven gets because of it, and you could have just went on and just let Steven and Hunter need to figure it out, right? Chrome and Highline need to figure out. So
The two of them. Yeah.
it becomes a Hunter and a Steven. Let's figure this out. And then what it should be is Jason Morales and Adam Newberg going to each other saying, "We need to stop this. Um, it's too early in the season for this to be going on. Can understand maybe if tensions are higher at the end of the season and you're costing people playoff spots or missing a round of the playoffs or whatnot. But we're 3 weeks into a 25-week season. There's no reason why
It's
tensions
too
should
early.
be high as they are, and I believe it becomes personal at this point.
Yep.
Uh, and it shouldn't be because Stephen Thomas is racing full time in this series that it's been alive for 3 seasons. There's no reason for Stephen Thomas to have any rivals in this series at all yet, in my opinion. I get he has some part-time starts and whatnot, but he hasn't raced with us. We've got over 50 races together with this group. There's no reason for a guy like Stephen Thomas to come in and just start. If anybody could be mad about the way the season's going so far, it's Cole, right?
Oh my
I think we
God.
would we would agree with that.
Yeah.
And he's not
Yeah.
making enemies out there because of it. And so there's no reason for guys to come in that already may or may not like somebody to just go ahead and kind of start beef, as my buddy Jacob Rees would say. We got beef, but there's no reason for it this early on in the season. And Steve Barnett, man, I know he's making some questions or saying some stuff in the live chat. Dude, stay out of that stuff, man. Don't get corrupted by or influenced by other people. Be more mature, learn from it. Uh, but at the end of the day, just stay out of it. And that's what I tell all my guys. If if Robbie's getting a penalty or Jacob's getting an EOL, I don't need Tim Hammond going on the chat or going on the miking up and saying, "Hey, you made a bad call." There's a reason why we have the rule, no, not my teammate. Because it's none of your business. It needs to be between the driver and the team leader. That's why they're there. And
Yep.
I believe in my heart that Jason Morales and Adam Newbert is going to find a way to resolve this, get it fixed, because there was a lot of backlash that I got that I didn't suspend people, I didn't do this, the penalties weren't harsh. I can guarantee you this: the one thing that I do not like to do is suspend somebody. But with
Hmm.
the penalties in hand, with them not being able, Steve has to keep Phoenix, and Stephen Thomas has to keep Phoenix on their record. That's
Yep.
-7 points that they both got coming out of that race. They cannot drop that race. They have to keep that on their record. It's
Hmm.
almost like a suspension that they raced in. They were able to race the race, but they were technically suspended because they got negative points. So I don't think people comprehend that aspect of it. But at the end of the day, we talk about probation periods, we talk about all this other stuff of keeping an eye on a driver. It's not just this season. For seasons to come, the admins of Nazareth better not see any of this from Stephen Thomas or Steve Barnett the rest of their time here, because it's not going to be pretty. I can guarantee you that. We're not talking about suspension for one race. We're talking about maybe not even being welcome back to come race with us anymore.
Yeah, I will end on this whole controversy on this note. And I've talked with Jason Morales personally. I know you have as well, Brady. Jason Morales is honestly the most disappointed owner there is out there. I don't know what Adam Newbert's saying to his guys, and who knows what the dynamic is with the whole Chrome Swim Alliance thing, but Morales is disappointed not just at the actions that happened at Phoenix. He's also just disappointed really with how Highline Racing's performance has been so far. Some of it, not their own fault, specifically in the case of Cole Henriksen, but a lot of it's been self-inflicted, Brady. I mean, if you think about it, and it's costing them, the team champions from last season, they bring on Kerry Tribune, they bring on Cole Henriksen, they lose, another driver. Um, Jason's not happy. He's not happy with where they're performing, and he wants. I don't want to say he wants more. He expects more, and rightfully so. If we had, enough time to do shows a couple weeks ago to preview the season, I wanted to go, team by team. I would have said Highline Racing's expectation is, a win every 3 weeks at a minimum. and through 3 races, no wins. Jason Morales has 2 top 5s. Hunter Parsons has 1 top 5 at Daytona, and I'm pretty sure that's it for Highline Racing in performance in regards to top performances. So Morales is frustrated. I get his frustrations. Something's got to shift here for them in the next couple weeks, starting with Homestead Miami Speedway, where we expect Cole to probably be very good. I would say I expect Hunter to run top 10. I expect Jason to run top 10. So Steve, obviously, no qualifying. He has to start in the back. He could probably finish top 10. Kerry Tribute, I expect to run top 10. It's they're in a weird position right now as a team. They got to figure out what their identity is at this point in time because it kind of seems like they're a little bit all over the place. And I love those guys, and I want them to do really well, as that was my former team, and I'm still attached to that team as a part timer. But even on my opinion, I'm like disappointed and frustrated in their performances because I know they have the talent to do better than where they're at right now.
Absolutely. And my model is, what's done is done. It's time to move on. And that's just how I've always rolled because there's no point of harping over the past. I can only hope, like I said earlier, about 15 minutes ago, is that I hope they can figure it out. I'm
Yeah.
I'm in a chat with a lot of people, and I'm in a chat with Jason Morales and Adam Newbert, and there's a few people that's in that chat, and I was told that it will be taken care of by all parties, so that's why I'm not stepping in. I'm not even gonna bother getting all the parties involved and having a conversation before Homestead because I
Mm-hmm.
really do think that Jason and Adam's going to take care of it for me. And to me, that's all I can ask for. So, there's a lot of things that people, you know, Hunter made a lot of comments today in the Discord, and it really kind
It
of
set you off. It was pretty funny to watch your reactions.
it did because Hunter needs to realize something that he did him and Nate got into it at Bristol, and I didn't suspend either one of those guys. I didn't even deduct points. I feel like I took it, fairly easy on both those drivers throughout that whole process because it didn't really affect their results in that race. And there was a lot of pushing and shoving after the race, and a lot of back and forth. So I didn't get involved from an admin to where I brought it to the board and was like, hey, we're going to do something about this. I basically got into Discord and I told both of them like, hey, cut it out, or I'm not going to say everything I said because I can't say it on live TV,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of I'll say this, there was a lot of me talking and a lot of them listening,
And
and
good thing
I
sometimes.
I didn't have a problem out of either one of them the rest of the season. Um, so Hunter needs to check himself on what I've done previously and try to stay consistent with that moving forward. Just
Yeah.
because it's not a Nate Maurer and it's a Stephen Thomas, or it's not Joey Doucette, or not this person that you may like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's somebody that you don't like personally, doesn't mean that you need to see the uh the worst consequences for them.
Agreed.
So that's why I was really upset this morning because it's not your job, it's not Tim Hammond's job to criticize what I do from an owner standpoint. There was a 9-4 vote on it. Even if you take the affiliates of those people out of it, it's still 6-4. There's no suspension. So my penalties, even though I added it from 5 races to 10 race probation because that's what a lot of people wanted, I feel like I came to a common goal of finding a happy medium for everybody that serves on that board of directors,
Mm-hmm.
and we were able to just get it done and move past it. Because I'm sure we could have debated it for, we got guys like Zach Hartwig that's probably still debating it while we're doing this podcast. But there's a lot of things that just need to get done, and I feel like it's going to get done. It's going to get sorted out, and we just need to move on. And speaking of moving on, let's talk about Homestead.
Yeah.
Let's preview Homestead. It's going to be ran in the middle of the day at noon,
Yep.
which I like. You know, typically when we go here, Tyler, we race at night.
Yep.
But I think it's time for a change. We're going to race during the day here. We know what this track is capable of doing with tires. We know it's going to be slick. We know it's going to be hot. Hopefully, the guys have learned their lessons about self spins. There's no need for self
Hopefully,
spin.
Phoenix was an
Yeah.
awakening.
But my question to you would be is who do you see winning? You know, like who is your pick to win? I'm not sure if you're going to race there or what you're going to be doing.
I am unfortunately probably not racing until March or April, due to my
Okay.
situation.
Well, I mean, we'll miss you on the track, but
I know.
what is a name that stands out to you
Oh
for
God,
possibly taking home the trophy at Homestead?
Doucette's the easy pick. Richards is another kind of easy pick. They both have wins there. They're both very talented there. I don't want to say who I want to win because I don't want to curse him because he's had a rough season. But based off of that comment, I think you can know where I would lean. I think he finally gets it done, breaks the curse that he's had so far this year. But I think Doucette and Richards are also good picks. Peacock's pretty comfortable at Homestead as well. He can run really, really well there. Um, Barnett's talented, but he needs to overcome, obviously, starting in the back. Carrie Tribune, very talented at the mile and a halfs as well, especially tire track, and something we're going to get into the final lap. iRacing update is going to affect a lot of this race because we're doing it during the day where it's already hot. Big multi-groove track. Wherever there's a lot of cars, trucks running, it's going to get hotter. It's going to be more uncomfortable. You're going to see guys really searching for grip, I think, next Monday night.
Yeah, so whenever you were speaking just now, three names came to my mind, and that was Nate Maurer,
Okay.
Robbie Richards,
Yep, I agree with that.
Jacob Reeves. If you remember,
Ooh, I like it.
Jacob ran this race with us last season when
Mm-hmm.
Nate and Robbie took out each other as teammates.
Yeah, I
Jacob
missed that one.
Reeves was running top five that entire race, and he was caught up in that wreck. And I went on to win at Homestead at a track that I never thought that I would win at because I really don't like Homestead. Homestead and I have never gotten liking each other, but
Understatement.
but Joey kind of gives the advantage for me just because I've seen him win there during the day. I like
Yeah.
Carrie Tribute as another pick. Love Carrie Tribute. Shout out to him, man. I think Carrie Tribute's probably one of the most underrated drivers in Nazareth.
Oh,
Uh,
agreed.
but
Agreed.
uh, just to, I mean, Cole's going to be Cole. I would expect for him to be fast there. Hunter during the day would probably be fast. Uh, but man, you just never know. Your buddy Chris Cinnamon, he loves Homestead. He runs
He's good
well
at it.
there. So man, it's just tough. But yeah, Joey and Nate and Jacob, I think are going to be fighting for the victory. I feel like.
And Robbie, you mentioned as well. We both agreed
Yeah.
on the Robbie idea. Well, I think we do need to move on to the final lap. It's been a long show. You've had a lot to catch up on. We've talked about a lot. Um, I will say, parting comment just on the Monday series in general. You mentioned his name. I didn't get a chance to comment about it because we wanted to talk about Homestead. But I think Hunter Parsons has the talent to be a champion in Nazareth. I don't know if he has the patience to.
Yeah, our buddy
I need to see more maturity and patience from him. But I think he is more than talented enough to win a championship.
our
But
buddy
that's a
Brandon
topic of
Bullock is
conversation for another day.
our buddy Brandon Bullock has got a good pick. He's picking Lumpkin. Lumpkin usually
Not bad.
shine instead too. So
Yeah, we'll see. Well, move on to the final lap now. Producer Cody, put whatever you want up for time on the clock. I'm going to say this. First topic, Championship 6 Fridays. Give me your 6 drivers. Jeff Merck obviously being locked in.
yeah, absolutely, Jeff. So we got five drivers to choose from. Okay, so I'm gonna go. Man, I wish I had him up there. I know I'm gonna pick Taylor Peacock.
Okay.
I think he's fairly locked in. Joey Doucette, I think, is going to learn from his mistake Now, at a track like Talladega, you got to worry about other people, not necessarily your own. Thank you, Cody. I appreciate that. Um, but yep, Taylor Peacock. I think he's going to be. I mean, I wouldn't say that they're all comfortable. Well,
But those two are
they're,
more comfortable.
they're,
19 and
they're
21's pretty
yeah,
decent.
they're 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 feeling okay about it. I know. I'm sure Taylor's kind of talking to his team about what are y'all thinking. Uh, Mission One always talks, so I mean, I know we're debating on what somebody like a Robbie Richards should do compared to a Joey Doucette, whatnot.
Yeah.
The top three to me are gonna go. I think
Peacock,
Jeff,
Doucette, Newton.
Taylor, Joey, and then Adam Newton. I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
Justin White, I'm saying yes.
Okay. So you don't think Hess gets in then?
I think Robbie comes up and beats Hess out.
Damn it. God damn it. We have the same picks. That was gonna be my sixth. Was Robbie Richards.
Well, I mean, I just see it. As much as I would like to, think of the Lumpkin there, man. Lumpkin's won this race, even though he was port time and he's gotten. It wasn't to win and move on to the championship six. I wouldn't count Lumpkin out of winning.
Right.
I just don't. Man, it's just so tough. But I just think Robbie is going to fight through the adversity and he's going to punch his ticket through.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think he knows how to win super speedways. He's very competitive there. I think he gets it done too. I really would like to see Kyle Hess make a championship six finally, a championship series, because obviously he finished fifth in points on the Monday Night Series in season one, thanks to his finish at Chicagoland. But I would love to see him get an actual championship opportunity. I unfortunately think that his bad luck will likely continue and Robbie Richards gets in. But next topic, and I mentioned it last in the Friday series, or Monday night series we were talking about. iRacing update. Heat is a big factor. Running in a line heats up that lane a lot more. Rubber gets laid down. Temperatures are going to change a lot. Do you think that this will play an effect in who wins the championship at Old Atlanta in the Friday night series?
I do. And I'm also going to bring up the fact that, we're seeing a lot of different, when you talk about heat, there's a lot of drivers. If you tuned into the Xfinity series, we covered qualifying this past Tuesday night. It was fun to just get with the drivers and cover qualifying. All they did was run 2 laps. We got to interview just about every driver in that series. While we were covering the other driver making their laps. So it was just fun. It was almost like that Sunday before the duels and the Daytona 500, just walking down pit road and grabbing an interview with a driver previewing the season. So that was fun. Shout out to Chris Wright doing that deal with me and Adam Flieger. But I heard a lot of chatter, and we saw in qualifying with the Xfinity cars, guys were running 120 miles an hour on their first lap because they were saying with the new update, the heat built into the tires plays a factor in that first and second lap. So you run around the track your first lap at 120 miles an hour, and then you take off and get up to speed. And we saw guys doing it later in qualifying, and they were coming up and grabbing the pole. And then the next guy would do it, and he would grab the pole. And we just saw guys getting knocked down the chart because of this. And I've never seen that before, Tyler. We're
Yeah.
known to go and ride against the wall, get the shadow coming off the wall, keep your right sides in that shadow to keep the tires cool, and then you go and you run on the bottom lane, and that's how you get the pole around Daytona and Talladega. So it was definitely a game changer, in my opinion. I don't know if it works in the trucks now or if it even does, but in the Xfinity cars, it works for sure. So you can go back and watch that on YouTube, see what those guys were doing. Shout out to Jason Middleton for getting the pole. He's on the front row. A lot of RSR Motorsports, Jarrett Crawl and those guys, uh, their team, I think they had 4 out of the top 10 in qualifying.
Yep.
But yes, another X factor. Now, I know we're talking about Friday night's Old Atlanta, which I still think Old Atlanta, the heat in the tires and the heat, all that new updates going to play a role. But let's talk about Homestead too. Homestead is known for eating tires, the heat,
Yep.
the running in the middle of the day. But you have to remember, I don't know if anybody's caught on to this, we changed it up in the season 3. The
Hmm.
track state's not 0% anymore. It's actually 35. So it starts at 35 every single session. I changed that this year. Not sure if everybody's caught that, but it's just to change it up. I always said we're not going to run the same races over and over again. We're going to change it up. And I changed the track state up to 35%. So who knows if that's going to play a role?
I think it will, and I'm going to say the heat's going to play a role. Homestead, especially running in the day, it's going to be hot. It's going to get hotter. I think you're seeing more drivers run the bottom to start the race, but because everyone's going to be running the bottom, I think late in the race, the middle and top are going to become more important. I will say the same thing for Atlanta, depending on the number of trucks, obviously, in the field for the Atlanta championship race. If there's 25 plus, that inside line is going to get very rubbered up, and guys are going to be searching elsewhere for grip because that is such an old abrasive surface that they got to save tires. But at the same time, when you move to a completely fresh track on fresh tires, it's really bumpy. It's gonna really chew it up early on, and so you get a little bit of rubber down, and you're gonna lose a little bit of speed. So it's that balance of losing tires versus losing speed that's going to play a big factor in Old Atlanta. I especially believe in the Friday Night Concerns of Police Drivers Championship race. Should be interesting to see. My next topic for you, back to NASCAR. Joe Gibbs Racing Xfinity Series program announced their 4-car lineup. I'm going to say 4-car because they only have 2 full-time drivers, Sheldon Creed and Chandler Smith, driving the number 18 and the 81. Eric Almirola and John Hunter Nemechek will split the 20, and then 4 or 5 other drivers are going to split the 19 next season.
You got Joe Graff Jr.,
Joe Graff's in there,
Ryan
Ryan
Truex.
Truex, Lane Riggs, I think, is a driver in that group,
Yeah.
and there's
Mhm.
another random guy. I actually have it right here, I think. The last guy is William Sawalich. My bad, not Lane Riggs. Taylor Gray and William Sawalich will be the other 2. So 4 drivers in that 1 car. Are we kind of seeing the downfall of the JGR Xfinity program? I think Creed will have a good year, but Smith moving over from Colleague, I feel like they're going in the wrong direction here.
Yes, to answer your question, I think teams like a Colic, teams like a Junior Motorsports are continuing to get better
Losing
at.
Sammy Smith, big deal.
Yeah. And I say yes, and I guess we're going to touch on the Noah Gregson topic later on, but this kind of ties into that. Um, I just think that you're seeing a drought or just not the next guy up mentality anymore in NASCAR. Xfinity, Truck, Cup, there's not just that big name anymore, like a Chase Elliott or a Ryan Blaney or a Kyle Larson. Uh, those days are gone, at least for the time being. There's not a big splash of talent that's rising up. And so just kind of get ready because the new era of NASCAR is going to basically be your Ryan Blaney's, your Chase Elliott, your Kyle Larson's, your William Byron's, et cetera, Tyler Reddick. I think the cream of the crop is already there. And I think that it's going to take about 5 to 10 years before you see that strong development of a like a Ty Gibbs running through the Xfinity series and then coming up to Cup. I
Yeah.
could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. When you see guys like Eric Almirola, AJ Allmendinger, and then you see Noah Gregson get into the 10 core, it's almost like we're getting into this, NFL draft where you're picking 13th and all the great guys are going and you're just drafting not need but best available. And I feel like we're getting to this point to where people are just scrambling to put the best available person in their rides. So that's my opinion. I think JGR is on the downfall for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Noah Gragson goes to the 10 for Storthaus Racing. Lane Riggs is actually going to replace Zane Smith in the 38 in the Truck Series, which I think is a great opportunity for him in that Front Row Motorsports truck, as I believe Zane Smith moves to the Cup side for Spire Motorsports or Front Row. Doesn't really matter. They're both essentially the same at this point. Except for Spire's going to have a lot of cash behind him with Carson Hocevar coming up to the Cup Series for them. Then you look at, Legacy, Eric Jones, John Hunter Nemechek. When you look at Cup ready Xfinity talent right now, and really Xfinity Series rivalries, you look at Austin Hill, Sheldon Creed. Those two drivers hate each other after what happened at Martinsville. You and I have talked about this before. Go either way on the situation. And then you have, I would say, the only other two drivers in the Xfinity Series right now, I think, Cup talent, maybe. I don't even think Sheldon Creed's Cup talent yet. I would argue is Sammy Smith or Sam Mayer, but they still have a lot to develop and prove themselves. They both have talent to win races, but I don't think they're good enough yet to be Cup drivers. I'm interested to see, though, you mentioned the Noah Gragson situation in the 10. I think Storehouse Racing's in a lot of trouble next year. You have two new guys. Gragson's essentially new. He didn't run enough of this season in Mountain Cup for me to say he knows the car. Also, he didn't run very well. I mean, everyone who replaced him after he got suspended did way better than he did in the car.
Agree, agree.
Gragson, Barry. Barry didn't have a great Xfinity year, so we'll see how he does in Cup. So those two. And then you have Priest and Briscoe, who both finished outside the top 25 in points, both behind Eric Almirola and Kevin Harvick in points. Haas is in a much worse position now than they were last year, obviously losing Kevin Harvick, but even losing Eric Almirola is a big loss because they lost their top two. And now their bottom two have to kind of step in as a leadership role because they have Barry and Gragson coming in. I don't think you see any Haas car make the playoffs next year unless they win a super speedway race.
I'm going to actually go out on a limb here, and I don't know the ties, and I don't know maybe contract obligations, but I can almost see Stuart Haas switching back to Chevrolet in
Ooh,
the next coming years. And I'm going to tell you why. It's just that Hendrick factor, right? Like that, Hendrick played a big role in getting Stewart to Haas, Stewart Haas into Cup, even though Haas was there. But, Hendrick Engines, Hendrick Motorsports, I mean, not Hendrick Motorsports, but Rick Hendrick himself played a pretty big role in that whole relationship there. And I thought that the move to Ford was going to hurt them. Now, Kevin Harvick saved them.
he did.
Great job by him. But it's almost time to abandon that and go either. I would have said maybe Toyota as a possibility.
They picked up
Because,
Legacy, though.
but they
Yeah.
picked up Legacy because Stewart had ties to Joe Gibbs at one time. But man, just adding Barry, adding Gregson, coming from that camp of Junior Motorsports, which is very, tight with Hendricks. It almost would make sense to see, hey, what do we need to change and why not change back to Chevy just to see if something would change. Maybe it would help out Priest and Briscoe. I don't know. But if you told me, top tier teams, Stuart Haas is not even close to it anymore.
I would personally put 2311. Both of their
Oh,
drivers will
absolutely.
outperform all of Storehouse
Absolutely.
Racing next
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
most likely. Another concern for Storehouse Racing, obviously, other than their driver talent, is the whole shuffling of crew chiefs as well. But might be a positive for them. The dark horse body for Ford is coming to the Cup Series next year. So Ford has a new body, but so does Toyota. Toyota has a brand new nose that are debuting with the Toyota Camry XSE. Looks to be better for bump drafting, which is where really the Toyota struggled last year, was super speedway tracks, which is shocking considering that they have both Denny Hamlin and Bubba Wallace, who are considered probably two of the top 10 in Cup Series when it comes to drafting tracks. Maybe that's an improvement for them, but we'll have to see. Maybe we'll get into that topic a little bit more on the next show. But I think it's interesting food for thought as we finish up the final lap here, Brady.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt. And I hope I'm wrong because I'm not the biggest fan of Tony Stewart, but I like Tony Stewart. And I just would like to see them do better especially guys like Noah, who's trying to, rejuvenate his career. I'm
Yep.
sure he's had a lot of time to reflect on some of the mistakes that he made. We've seen this before. Some guys coming back strong. So
Larson.
would like to see that for him. And Chase Briscoe. Like to see him do better. Um, and Josh Berry. I want to see Josh Berry do well because I think he's
It helps the
great.
short trackers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just don't have high hopes for him in year one. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's going to take an adjustment for him. And I do think Ford as a whole will be better next year, but I think Penske's going to lead the way by a long shot. I mean, Blaney just won the title. And by the way, speaking of championship winners, Brady, our championship picks results came back, and I had two of the three. So I'll take the win on finally getting a set of picks correct over you. It's a small victory, but I messed up the Xfinity pick. Ford swept it all for NASCAR, but I will say I'm glad we could do the show again, Brady. It's been a blast. Always enjoy this. Uh, yeah, a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll be back next week to do some Championship 6 conversations with the Concerns of Police Survivors Truck Series.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. We'll be back on. We'll get those guys in order. We just have to tune in tomorrow night. Talladega Super Speedway, Nazareth 360 Racing Network, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, YouTube and Facebook. Well, it's going to be a great show, man. I'm ready. I'm going to be involved in it somehow, some way. I've already told my guys that I was going to be there tomorrow night to kind of listen in, kind of help them figure out where they're at, as far as points and everything. So I'm excited about it, and I can't wait to see what Championship 6 we have. We know we got one. We know Jeff's going to be on the show next week, pinning a Christmas party for work. Who knows? Uh, but we'll definitely be back on the show next week.
Yep. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Again, unfortunately not on camera night, but I'm Tyler. Brady, appreciate you coming on doing the show for us. Glad we could do it again. Really appreciate it. Again, hope you all have a good night. Again, huge shout out for our producer Cody not getting everything set up. We had a little bit of issues with computers earlier. Thankfully, he was able to get everything under control. We'll see you all next time on the Hot Lap.